where was the crystal ball in its prediction of Trump versus Hillary Clinton going into the election?
So we had Clinton favored, just like many others did, and it's sort of easy to say after the fact, oh well, you should have picked Trump, et cetera. But it was a very strange race, and I think there were some lessons that you could pull from it that I think might be helpful looking forward here. And that is, first of all, you had two presidential candidates in Clinton and Trump who really both had very poor national favorability numbers, to the point where about a fifth of the whole electorate in exit polling, polls conducted of people after they voted, about a fifth of all the voters said they didn't like either. They had an unfavorable view of both Clinton and Trump, and those voters ended up kind of moving more toward Trump at the end. Trump won that group 47% to 30%, and then the remaining 20-25% went to the third party candidates. And so overall, 6% of the electorate voted for third party candidates. But in these polls, Clinton would often lead, but her leads were more like, 45-42 or something like that, not that close to 50. And 50 is always, the magic number you kind of look for in polls. And also you would have a high number of undecideds, and also a higher number of people saying that they plan to vote third party. And what usually happens in American politics, maybe in other countries too, although I just really study American politics and specifically, usually when voters will say they're going to vote third party, and then at the end they decide to vote for one of the two major parties because they just decide that they want to make sure that they have more of an influence on the outcome. And so a lot of undecideds, a lot of sort of inflated number of third party voters. I think the polls sometimes were maybe less clear than maybe what sort of the top line horse race number between Clinton and Trump ended up being. And, there were certain points of the election where it really did look like a legitimate toss-up. I'd say specifically in late September in 2016. But then you had the Access Hollywood tape come out about Trump. Clinton generally was judged by majorities to have won the three debates, but then I think things kind of broke poorly for Clinton at the end. And so it may have been that if the election were, 2 weeks later or 2 weeks earlier, that Clinton would have done better. But of course, that doesn't matter. The election was when it was, and Trump ended up winning. And I will say, in hindsight, that the pieces were there to try to put together. Although I think just as a matter of odds, Clinton was probably probably the easier person to pick, which I think is why a lot of us ended up doing it. That was not a shining moment for the prognostication industry. Although I think many of us, including Crystal Ball, really bounced back pretty well in 2018.